Hello and welcome to today's episode of Theology Threads. My name is Dr. Brian Jenkins, and I'm thrilled to have you join me and my friends today as we discover how the thread of the gospel message of Jesus is woven into our everyday lives. Each episode, my friends and I will discuss and unpack various ideas, values, and feelings about our world and what the Bible has to teach us. So let's follow the thread together in today's episode of Theology Threads.
Let's open with a quote, and you'll find this familiar. C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, good start.
I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about belief, and so another quote I want to share with you is Charlie Brown creators Charles Schulz once famously said, "It doesn't matter what you believe, just so long as you're sincere."
Yeah.
So Brian, why does what we believe carry so much importance? Who cares what I believe?
Yeah, I think it becomes a critical question as we're starting this whole podcast, the idea of threads and theology, and this fundamental idea of what does it matter what I believe? Now, what we're not going to do today is talk about what to believe.
Sure.
In the sense of what is the content of Christianity, what is the theological content. We'll do that over all of these episodes together. But what we wanted to do today was set forth kind of the nature of what we believe, that it does matter what you believe and why it matters what you believe and what you choose to believe. So I think one of the questions that sort of begs out of that, first off, is sort of what does it mean in general to believe something?
Sure, yeah.
Right? Because we have all these different things about belief. Does it believing mean I agree with it? Does believing mean I've witnessed it? Does believing mean I assent to it or I concede it?
Is it a faith sort of thing? Is it followed by action?
Right. Yeah. Can I believe in something that's impossible? Can I believe in something I've never seen? There's all sorts of ties to that because there's this whole thing even about you can't believe something there's this whole thing in the philosophy of belief or the idea of knowing things is called epistemology. And there's this idea even in epistemology that you can't believe something if it's not true. You can only know something that's true. Sorry, you can believe it if it's not true, but you can only know something that's not true. So I want us to work off of J.P. Moreland and William Lane Craig, and they came with this idea, so I'm going to paraphrase them.
And these guys are?
They're Christian philosophy instructors. I believe they're out of the Biola University down in L.A. So
alive today, or these people in?
I honestly don't want to say because I don't know.
We're not sure when this airs.
That'll be a neck. Yeah, I mean, we don't know when this airs. They could be, much like Schrodinger's cat. We don't know at any given point if they're alive.
This is the producer here. J.P. Moreland and William Lane Craig are in fact alive and working at Biola University. Thank you.
So, but to paraphrase those guys, here's what I want to talk about. Belief is choosing to trust in something you have reason to accept is true. So belief is choosing to trust in something or someone that you have reason to accept is true. So look at the words there: choosing, trust, reason, and acceptance.
Yeah.
The idea that belief in and of itself is not like a blind faith thing. That belief, in order for it to have meaning and depth and all these things, has to have a reasonableness to it. And that you can't, it seems counterintuitive, it seems like I don't have to say it, but you can't believe in something if you don't accept it as true. You really can't. So part of believing is saying, do I accept this? Do I accept this as true? Not just do I say it's true, but do I fundamentally sort of accept in the depth of it? Do I embrace its truth? Do I lean into its truth?
Yeah, that's really good. And I like what you mentioned about reason. And we'll talk obviously more about belief in Christianity, separately than this conversation. Yeah. But if I can for a second, that's one of the things that people will have a criticism about Christianity. You're asking me to blindly accept something,
right? Yeah,
that any reasonable person wouldn't believe,
right?
But that's not what we're asking. We're asking to have reasonable questions and contend with belief in Christianity or whatever it is that we believe.
Yeah, and that idea of, well, Christianity is just blind faith, which is not a true statement. I don't believe that statement, see, because it's not true.
Look at
that. So it's this idea, though, that faith as belief, see, that's now the question that you enter into. How much to believe something do you have to have faith in it? which it's this idea of the unseenness of a thing. So when we say we believe, we'll think, okay, well, like you said, belief is blind faith. The other part of it is that belief is absolute certainty. So I have absolute certainty. Well, that's not belief either, because
it's fact at that point, right?
It's fact at that point. I don't need to have any choice to it. I have to accept it as is. And it's more than just agreeing with it or acknowledging it. Mark Twain once famously said, someone asked him if he believed in infant baptism, and he said, "Believe it? I've seen it with my own eyes." So
that's good.
Yeah, that's
like
great.
That.
He was a funny guy.
Yeah.
But this idea of, if I have absolute proof of it, is it really believing? It's knowing. Mm-hmm. It's having a concept of it. So then what I choose to believe, and something about even knowing with evidence, is I kind of have no choice at that point. I have to accept it as true because the evidence is put in front of me. And we can talk about, if you want, we can talk about accepting truth, in cognitive dissonance and all that kind of stuff, that something's been proven, sufficient evidence, does it all exist? But what belief is it's this sense of, these are the things that I choose to trust. If I'm believing in something, I'm really trusting on it. I'm leaning on it, would be another way. So one of the ways the Bible talks about it is leaning on things.
Right.
I can lean into it.
Yeah.
So if I'm if I'm trying to climb up to get my attic, I believe in the ladder. I'm trusting the ladder.
Oh man.
I acknowledge that and I hate it because
that's a visceral reaction for me, because
are you not a heights guy?
Not really, but I just recently had to take some leaves and debris off my roof. Otherwise my home insurance was going to be like, sorry.
Okay,
So I have a ladder that is a collapsible one.
Okay.
And so the only thing that's preventing it from collapsing as I'm on it is those 2 pins on the sides.
Right,
So I have to, it's belief.
Yeah.
I have to get on there and believe it.
And in that instance, it's not the ladder that you trust. It's those 2 very small pins when it comes down to it. So what I have to do then is, when I say, well, I can believe whatever I want, you have to say, okay, can I believe whatever I want? Who cares what I believe? Well, I care what you believe, or else we wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
But I can believe whatever I want. Can you? Because if those underpinnings, what you have leaned into, what you have accepted to trust, are faulty, then you now have the setup for the destruction of your life. And people say, well, it's my life. I can do whatever I want. No one even thought that till like the 1600s. I mean, the idea of individualism comes into play.
Right, exactly.
So anytime, one of the things that Christianity teaches is, anytime my belief shatters, or I don't just shatter my own belief, I will always take people with me. So it absolutely does matter what you believe. Another version of the Schultz quotes is, it doesn't matter what I believe as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. Well, the fact is that you cannot have beliefs isolated from other people.
Yeah.
John Donne said, no man is an island. We are all a part of the whole.
Yeah.
And for whom the bell tolls, when he talked about the death bell, for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for me, it tolls for thee. And so the idea that if one of us is gone, we all are missing something.
Yeah.
And so it's that disconnection.
No matter how big or small, your life has so much meaning.
Yeah.
And it's felt when, that, especially when we lose a life, right?
Yeah.
And so even someone who, may have not been up the corporate ladder, or, on a podcast, I don't know.
Yeah. On a real podcast.
Yeah. No, there are people, though, that your life absolutely matters to. And so if your life, comes to a point based upon the beliefs that you established, it totally has an effect. We don't exist in a vacuum. We are not isolated to ourselves.
Right.
We're in fact created for community. I would make the argument.
Yeah. And so if I'm in my car right now, or we've got someone listening right now and they're driving in the car and they're thinking, oh, my wife's trying to get me to go to church, or my wife made me listen to this, or whatever. What does it matter what I believe? It matters because that belief spreads. Mm-hmm. It spreads out to the people around you. Yeah. It spreads out. And so the impact of that becomes critical. So as we talk about who cares, we talk about what is belief. It starts with this idea of belief is choosing to accept or trust in something that I accept, and I have reason. Mm-hmm. So I have reason that my worldview should have some coherent, congruent, it should make sense on some level. And to them, most people's worldviews make sense to them. So yeah.
So going from belief kind of up here in ethereal or the concept to then driving, sounds like behaviors and actions.
Right.
So that kind of answers the question as to why is belief therefore significant?
Yeah, yeah. So if you think of belief as a trajectory, right? Belief is where I aim my life. In other words, I'm leaning onto this thing, and this belief then launches me forward.
Right.
So I have to then make a serious estimation of what is the trajectory. If my beliefs shape where my life is headed, then yeah, it absolutely matters what I believe. If I believe, for example, that everyone's out to get me, that is going to affect every single relationship I have. If I have a core belief that says everyone's out to get me, it's going to affect everything I do. If I have a core belief that says people are mostly good, that's going to affect every relationship that I have.
There's a term in psychology, the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Right. It kind of feeds that.
Right.
What I believe determines what I do, which determines how other people may treat me, which reinforces then what I believe. And so it's a cyclical sort of thing.
Yeah, and so that belief choice then becomes critical. So
Right.
when people say, it doesn't matter what I believe as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Well, that's just kind of utilitarianism that's really impractical. Because at some point, you're going to encounter someone who doesn't believe what you do, what you believe, and you're going to have your beliefs and they're going to have their beliefs. And what does your belief system say then?
Yeah.
About that conflict? How are you to deal with different belief systems? Does your worldview, your belief system, your construct accommodate, for the existence of other people? Because there are a few billion more of us. So
absolutely, and it leads me to my next question, because we'll run into just that, where there's people who have different beliefs than ours, and maybe some beliefs are more significant than others. Maybe you could speak to that, but the example that comes to my mind is like, all right, well, there's belief like, faith in God, or like the creation of the universe, or, why I'm here and all that kind of stuff. Then there's the belief of, I believe that the dishwasher ought to be stacked a certain way.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe the person I live with doesn't, think the same as me.
Right, yeah.
And so, maybe that belief, I don't know. So speak to that a little bit. Are there different levels of belief, or how does that?
I would say that there are different levels of belief in the fact that how they then impact ourselves and others begin to play out, right? I believe, for example, what's something that I believe that someone would just like, I don't know. I like baseball more than football. Okay. It's a completely benign belief. It doesn't mean or do anything. But if I actually scrape away at why I like baseball more than football, it actually gets into some deeper levels of belief about community and being around people and in the enjoyment of a game. And,
ballpark.
Yeah, the ballpark.
Yeah.
And the history. I love history. History, knowing and connecting to history is a big part of my belief system. So that scrapes away a little bit more. So you look at something like the dishwasher and you have a spouse that says, I think the dishwasher should be stacked this way. You have another spouse that says, the partner who says, I think the dishwasher should be stacked this way. Like, it's just a silly little thing until it's not.
Right. It feels like World War III at that point.
Because the intersection of those two beliefs are going to hurt each other.
Yeah.
Because it could be, I want the dishwasher stacked this way because if it's not, I feel like I'm in total chaotic and I have no control over my life at all. And you're like, wow, that was an escalation. But slowly, well, I want you to do the dishwasher the way I want to do it because I don't feel like we have a good marriage and I feel like you don't trust me.
And maybe the value of control has come from like a childhood of feeling very out of control and things had happened. And so that, translates into a belief that things ought to be the way that they are now or something
and so
like that.
What happens is people make the mistake of thinking, how do I want to say this? I feel like people can make the mistake of thinking that the stuff down here, so if you're listening, I'm sort of motioning to the tabletop, the stuff down here isn't really related to the big ticket stuff up there. Okay? That what I feel about relationships or who I date or what I choose to put in my body, how much I eat or drink, or should I sleep around or should I be monogamous, or what should I do with my money? Should I get as much money as I want? Should I give it all away? This is all the stuff down here. This is the earthy stuff. It doesn't really matter about the big stuff up there. And my contention and my personal belief, my argument is that they are incredibly tied to each other, and that it's the disassociation of your settlement of the big transcendent issues that can lead to the discontent and the unsettlement of more imminent, more earthly issues. And so if I haven't landed on some of the big ticket stuff, I'll flounder on the small ticket stuff.
Say that again, but can you bring that more to just a practical level? Because I heard a lot. The a lot of big words.
Okay,
so,
yeah, sure, no.
Like for the layman, you know.
Yeah. So in a few episodes, we're going to do one about work.
Okay.
Right, the value of work and the value of job. Right. So if somebody says, "Well, I hate my job, and I don't understand why I have to have this crummy job that I can't stand. I got to keep going to it. Why should I go there?" And they would say, and then someone would come along and say, "It doesn't matter. It's just a job." And I would say, "Wait, is it? Is it just a job, or could it be that the discontent in your job is going to go with you to every single job because you don't have a deeper understanding of why you're here in the first place, and you'll always be miserable at every job because you don't know why you're here to begin with." So we go to this job question all the way up. But then you see these things online where people are like, "I've worked at McDonald's for 85 years and I've never been happier." I guarantee you that person has a bigger understanding of why they're here on the planet than a discontented day trader or discontented hedge fund manager who is in chaos and always miserable. And that McDonald's employee may just have a better sense of why they're here to begin with. And so that I kind of go back to the thing, how's that working for you?
Right.
And so that's what I mean about tying this hugely transcendent question, what on earth am I here for, to this imminent question of why do I hate my job?
Yeah. So it sounds like the culture will try to separate those two as if they're not related.
And that's a fairly recent change in world history.
Right.
In general, right? So up until really the Enlightenment, everything was
and the Enlightenment
so the Enlightenment, you're looking at like 16 1700s, Voltaire and Descartes and those guys, and they're coming out and they're saying, hey, the individual is the most important thing, and the individual has the most important thing. And up until then, all societies were collective. Everyone's like, hey, we got to do this together. And the idea of once science kicks in and science becomes the primary driver, now we don't have a bigger, more metaphysical reason to exist at all.
Right.
So when we removed that bigger metaphysical reason to exist at all, we had to discover it on our own. We had to generate it. And by result, the individual becomes more important. It comes down to this. You kind of have to start your belief structure by answering one of two questions. That either there is nothing out there or there's something out there.
Wouldn't it be just easier, though, to just not care?
It is, but the only way you can not care is by not thinking about the fact that there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
Okay, which now people say, well, and you say, well, you say, hey, it feels like if there's nothing out there, that's kind of hopeless and depressing. And how do we, do you mean I'm not going to be eternal? And somebody says, well, yeah, it is if you think about it. And now all of a sudden you say, wait, Christianity is the one that's rationally considering the outcomes of a belief system, and non-spiritual is the one being irrational and not considering and weighing the outcomes of their belief system. So who's going on blind faith now?
Yeah, I've heard it said that nihilism isn't so bad if you just don't think about it.
Right, and I think that's what a lot of people do. And so what do? They go into a mindless job with no meaning, and then what do? Dear Lord, we drug ourselves. We do everything. We eat ourselves to death.
Well,
we drug ourselves to death.
In the temporary, pleasurable, small things that kind of distract us from the big questions.
Because we have a belief welling up inside of us, Miles. We have a belief welling up inside of us that we either have to figure out if we're here for some reason or we're here for no reason.
Yeah.
And if I'm not here for a reason, then man, I just go like Metallica in my head and nothing else matters.
Oh, okay. I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah, nothing else matters.
Okay.
Metallica. Yeah, so yeah.
I've heard a few songs.
Yeah, or I've tried so hard, I've come so far.
Yeah, that was where I thought you were going to go.
But
Linkin
in the
Park.
end, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
And that is it. Like, what is all this striving for to begin with? What's the point if there's nothing else?
So it definitely matters what we believe. It drives our actions. It's connected to large beliefs, connect to small beliefs as well. And so it seems as if it would be important then for us to know what we believe.
Yeah.
Like to actually take inventory of our beliefs. And so how do we go about doing that? How do we take inventory of our beliefs? Yeah.
So we're going to step now into the Bible part of it because I think that's where we have to start answering.
Absolutely.
So we have to acknowledge that, I'm a pastor, you're a pastor, we all that kind of stuff. The average listener may or may not be a person of faith. So my belief then is that there is something out there, and that how I choose to believe in that something and how I choose to obey and respond and do all that to that something out there, which I believe is the biblical God, the God of Christianity, then I can start to say, how am I doing in reference to that, in reference to Him? And so as we start to sort of put that pattern, if you will, together, that thread of does it matter. So the evaluation, one of the great ones is, I have it in my notes right here. It comes in the 26th Psalm, Psalm 26, verse 2, where David says, examine my heart, O God,
that's
and
a good
test
one.
me. So I want to take that idea. Hold on, I'm going to find it here. I got it.
You got it.
I have my notes. There it is. Okay, right. Test me. Here it is. Prove me, O Lord, and try me. Test my heart and my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to put a pin in that and then kind of circle back up. Because we think, the Bible talks about belief all the time. It talks about the heart all the time. So if we're looking at, does it matter what I believe? What does the Bible say about not what I should believe?
Right, we're not there yet.
Right, but what does the Bible say about why it's important what I believe? Mm-hmm. And you can't always go in the Bible, just a little teaching. You can't always go to verses about the mind because the worldview is different.
You're right.
You have to go about what the Bible says about the heart.
As soon as you connected that to the heart, then like 4 or 5 scriptures just, came to my mind, like guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life, right?
Yeah, so the first thing is, does it matter what I believe? As a Christian, as someone who believes in the teachings of Jesus Christ, as someone who accepts the truth of the biblical God, I would have to say that it absolutely does. Why? When you just said Proverbs 4:23, above all, above everything you do, guard your heart, for from it flows the well springs of life, okay? So that right there says why it matters what you choose to believe. You have to guard what comes in and what comes out. That's what a guard does. A guard kicks people out and a guard lets people in. That's what a guard does. So because it's from that, everything flows from your belief system. Everything flows from your belief system.
That is that's so cool. I wrote that down in preparation. Obviously, we didn't talk all about what we were going to say, but the idea of safeguarding our beliefs.
Yeah,
like we stand at the gate, of our own, soul, and so we have this onus or responsibility to, make sure that what we let in is the right thing.
Right. So practically, let's talk about that.
Practically.
Super practically. How do I guard my heart?
Yeah.
Well, again, if you're listening to this, you're probably a podcast listener. So when the first question,
if you weren't before, you are now.
Yeah, or you may not be by the end, but
no, they'll
but
love
anyway,
this.
Yeah, they'll love it. It's great. It's great. So that's one of the first things. What am I letting in? Who am I listening to? What am I consuming intellectually, spiritually? Who gets to speak in there? Am I guarding it against, number one, outside voices? Are the people I'm letting feed into my life, shape my life, all that kind of stuff, are the voices, the literature, the whatever, are they there to bring up the best out of me, okay? And then the internal part of it, that's the safeguarding what's going on. Are there things inside of me that need to get kicked out? Another proverb says, Proverbs 14:30, a tranquil heart gives life to the flesh. What the writer of the Proverbs is saying is that a heart is at peace gives life to you. So one of the ways that I know that my beliefs may be off kilter is I don't have a tranquil life. And my life feels like it's in chaos. My body feels like it's in chaos. Not physical illness, but just that sense of everything feels chaotic.
You can feel it in your gut.
You can feel it in your gut, and you can look at it in your life. I've talked to people over the years, and their big question, I don't understand why my life is always a mess. Now, I've talked to people who have hard lives, but their life is at peace. I've talked to people who have great lives on the surface, and their lives are a mess. And what's the difference? It's what their beliefs are rooted in. It's the essence of that. If you jump into the New Testament, because we want to do threads, that's the other thing we want to do. We don't just want to do a verse or two here, but we want to tie it through.
Right. How does it look through the entire breadth of
course
the
of Scripture?
Word of God?
So in the New Testament, the author James says, in James 4, what causes quarrels and fights among you? Isn't it the desires at war within you? So James says, the conduct and the nature of your exterior relationships are driven out of your belief system. It's what you believe about the person you're fighting with. If I believe the worst about the person in my life, I'm always going to be at odds with them. If I choose to believe the best, then even in conflict, we'll get to a path of peace. If I believe you can't trust anybody, I'll never trust anybody, and people will be untrustworthy. But if I believe that people deserve a chance, if I believe that people are basically good versus completely evil, I think we're just kind of messed up. But anyway, I have those those perspectives. I have those proportionate ideas that say how I believe. If I believe that I matter, it's going to be, if I believe that I matter in the universe, how I treat my body, how I live my life. If I believe that other people matter, how I talk to people, how I spend my money, how I give my money away. Do I hoard it or do I share it generously? How I talk on social media, how I interact with people, how I feel about different ethnic, racial, gender groups, all those sorts of things. If I think that other people matter, it changes. If I think they don't matter, then we get kind of honestly the world that we live in now, which is really a world, I think, that says the only one who really matters is me, and I'm going to go prove that I'm the top of the food chain wherever I go. So,
in summary, then, because we talked a lot about what the Bible has to speak about this, what does Christianity teach us about the nature of belief? I know we kind of went a lot of different places, but maybe if we can kind of boil it down to a big idea here.
When you look at these passages, things like the Proverbs verses, things like the James verses, Jesus himself in Luke and in Mark, Matthew, all of them teaches the idea that nothing, you can't get good figs from a bad fig tree. Even Jesus talks about you have to pay attention to what you believe, to what's going on in your heart. Now, the heart wasn't the seat of emotion, it was the seat of reason and drive. And so, in other words, the heart was the thing that was driving your life forward. So Jesus teaches it, James teaches it, the Proverbs teach it, Paul teaches, the Psalms teaches it. It's consistent. So I wrote down just a few ideas. I think one thing you have to remember, number one, is that beliefs inform every area of our lives. How I spend my money, what I do to my body, what I do to other people's bodies, what I eat, what I drink, how I treat my spouse, how I treat my kids, all of that type of stuff. And if you have a sense of disruption or lack of harmony or peace or chaos or whatever, it probably comes from a deeper belief. You've tied it. That behavior, I believe, is somehow tied to a deeper belief. That belief that could even be the result of a wound. It could be the result that it could be a belief that's been formed by an experience, not necessarily about an idea that you have. It could be a belief that's informed by an experience, but it's still driving you, okay? So
can I pause there just for a second? And I know you have more you want to share on that, but practically, how do we get there when it comes to that taking inventory of our belief system, knowing what our beliefs are? Like, is it physical, like writing something down, or is it talking through it with people, or what would that look like?
So yes to all of that.
Yeah, okay.
I really do. I think one of the first things to do is, if you're going to take that inventory to say, I'm looking at my life and I'm wondering if it's what I truly believe, is to work from the outside in. Don't sit here and say, well, I know what I believe, but my life is a dumpster fire. Okay, start with the dumpster fire and now trace that back. So you work from the outside in. For one thing, if you're constantly questioning your choices, like, why am I always making these horrible choices with money, with dating relationships, with food, with work? If I'm constantly making these horrible choices, then you need to start questioning your beliefs because your choices are an extension of your beliefs.
Right. So you can judge by kind of what's been occurring. That there may be something that I think differently about the world.
Yeah, like I obviously have something in there.
Yeah.
That is leading me to choose. If I'm always choosing, a single person who might say, I'm always choosing a bad boyfriend. Okay, so you're a single lady out there, and
where's all the good men?
All the good men, right? Well, they're at New Life Church.
That's right.
There we go. Okay.
Normandy Park.
Okay.
Renton and Covington.
By this time, it will be Covington.
Too. There's
and online church online.
Yeah.
Those New Life churches, because there's like a bazillion New Life churches.
Yeah,
but
there are probably other good ones too.
The ones we're speaking of specifically are in Renton, Covington, Normandy Park, and online. Okay. But if you're saying, man, you have to then say, if I'm always choosing something, and I can't control other people's choices, which that's something else that Christianity as a worldview, as a faith believes. I can't control other people, right? We have a teaching called self-control, not other control. So all I can do then is say, what do I believe that gives me permission to consistently make a bad choice? I either believe it doesn't matter, I believe I'm not worth it, I believe it's okay for me. I mean, how many people have we talked to that have justified knowingly wrong behavior because they earned it or they deserved it? Oh, no, I get it's wrong for you, but you don't understand. I've had a hard day. I can abuse that drug. I can abuse that drink because my life's really stressful. I know it's wrong, but okay, what you're doing is you're saying you don't really believe. You don't really believe. You say it, but you don't. It's deep enough. There's a reason why. And if you say, well, I guess maybe the reason I'm always in these horrible relationships is because I don't think I'm worthy of a good relationship. Now you are dissonant with Christianity because Christianity absolutely teaches you're worthy of a good person.
Yeah, fearfully, wonderfully
made.
made.
You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You're
daughter,
handcrafted
you're
in the image of God.
Yeah.
Christianity would fight you on that point to no end.
To rescue you.
Rescue you from that idea.
Yeah.
And that's the point. A guy says, well, I'm worthless. Man, if I don't make this deal, if I don't sell this house, if I don't close this contract, I'm worthless. That's not true.
Right.
You're already accepted. The Bible says you're already accepted regardless of how you're performing in life.
And we can point to scripture that says that we're created in the image of God. And if we're created in the image of God and we have that likeness with him, therefore we have that value.
Yeah. And so that's why if you're struggling in your life and you're confused or you're hurting, I've been in some tough seasons of my life where things haven't always been great for me mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I can almost always, when I do the work, which is something you'll hear us say quite a bit on this podcast.
I love that phrase.
When you do the work. Okay, merch drop coming. We'll tell the team.
Okay.
Sophie, merch drop coming. Do the work, mugs.
Do the work.
Kieran, here we go.
In order to order it, you need to do the work. In order for them to, order the stuff.
That's true. You just saw me do the work. All right. Or you heard me do the work. All right. But in order to get there, you have to do the work to say what belief is really there. And for me, it was what belief is really there. Mm-hmm. And here I am, pastor, theologian, doctor, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Who cares? Do the work. Do the work to get there. So there's part of it. So you have to remember Christianity is going to teach you that beliefs inform every area of your lives. And so therefore start doing an inventory of every area of your life. And I guarantee you where there's chaos, not hard times or suffering or disruption.
Right.
I'm talking about chaos.
Yeah.
Where there's chaos, you will find a broken or inadequate belief.
So that's actually something.
I think I'm confident in saying that. I believe... we open that. There's a quote from Tom King, who's a comic book writer. He wrote a series in 2015, 2016 on Vision, the comic book character Vision. And there's this great quote that I go by. It says, certainty is an illusion, belief is a constant. And I was really challenged like that. But then the next panel over, the next character says, well, I believe that I'm certain. So that's kind of where I'm at. I believe that I'm certain that if I find an area of chaos, again, not suffering. We'll talk about suffering.
Yeah.
We'll talk about pain. We'll talk about I'm talking about chaos. There's probably a broken or an inadequate belief tied to that chaos.
So, we will have to cover that on another time. But even the distinction between chaos and suffering is a very important one.
Yeah,
I'd love to go through that with you later.
Yeah.
So
I don't believe we have time.
You're certain that we don't have time?
What a stupid joke we just did. That was really silly. Okay. So anyway.
Let's bring it back together. This is a professional podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Look at these books.
We got books. We got
your doctorate's up there, man.
Perhaps you've never read it.
No.
We've got the puffy things on the microphones. We are. Don't do that. Yeah.
Should I?
No.
I thought we were getting new ones. I could just do.
No,
right,
we're getting different stands.
No.
So all right, okay, let's keep going.
So I had a thought, man. I did.
Okay.
And it was all these things you're talking about with inventory of beliefs and why
I have
that's.
a few more if we want to go through them. So
I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Okay.
These are significant, and but one thing it requires is us to be honest with ourselves.
Yes.
Because when we're talking about discovering why there is this chaos and or suffering or what all these things, different things, it's very easy to pass the buck, right? To pass the blame to, well, in the example of the lady looking for her Mr. Right. It was just all these dudes. Like it was just he was the problem. Or this was a problem, or whatever.
To be fair, it probably was the dudes because men are kind of the worst. So yeah, go ahead.
As a man, I feel like there are some good guys out there.
Yeah, there's a few of us.
Yeah, at New Life Church,
9:30, 11, and 12.
Are we starting a dating service now for the guys?
No, that is a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad we stuck with this one, Theology Threads.
Yeah.
So, I think it takes a lot of courage to say, hey, I'm the one that's causing, well, maybe not causing, but it's my beliefs that are leading to these results.
Yeah. And what's fascinating about that, again, I will unashamedly always say why I think Christianity is a superior worldview. I believe that. I think it just works.
Same.
Is that Christianity actually acknowledges that. Christianity is one of the few religions that says sometimes it's your fault and sometimes people are horrible too. It's both. It doesn't have to be either or. And because I'm a Christian, I'd like to think that now I have a worldview that accommodates both my own failure, transgression, sin, whatever, and it also accommodates and explains the behavior of other people.
Right.
It acknowledges that there is a way the world should be, but then it also ruthlessly acknowledges that there's a world the way it is. And I don't have to choose. And so that idea of self-awareness and that idea of self-honesty, but even then, I can only be honest about something that's true, and I can only believe it. I have to believe in true things. So I do have to be honest with myself in that inventory as well, for sure.
So where do we go to get those true things, those true beliefs, the beliefs that we feel like we can trust?
Yeah. We would say the belief system that I guess I would always advocate for is biblical Christianity.
Absolutely.
And so we'll get into that a little bit more, like in next week when we talk about doubt and the choice of belief. So if we want to tie this one and then the one next week together, it's that choice of belief. When am I choosing to pull the trigger, if you will, to go all in on a belief? But a couple of things. One of them is to say, in my worldview, anthropology teaches that there's sort of four big questions of life, and religion exists in the human world to answer four big questions of life. Like, why am I here? Or where did I come from? Which is the question of origin. Mm-hmm. So if you're taking notes at home, please don't take notes in the car. Where did I come from? Which is the question of origin. Why am I here? Which is the question of purpose. What do I do? Which is the question of ethics and moral behavior. And then what happens next? Which is the question of destiny. Another way to phrase that is what happens when I die. Okay. I have to then start at some point being self-aware and taking the ground level questions as I work through those. Why am I always miserable? Why can't I be happy in a relationship? Why are my wife and I always fighting? Why am I bad with money? If I take sort of the imminent, the earthy chaos and I start scraping away, I'm going to find that they are threaded all the way up to one of those big four questions. Where did I come from? Why am I here? How should I behave? And what happens next? Christianity offers a solution to all four of those questions. I mentioned it earlier. That's both coherent, in other words, it can make sense, and that's congruent in the sense of they self-reinforce. Christianity, from a logic point of view, is a very, very tight construct because it answers all of those. And each of those answers, by the way, play off of the other, right? So my morality is tied to my purpose. But my purpose is tied to my origin. And my destiny is tied to all of them. You know, it's the idea of, I don't know how much we want to get into Aristotle, but we're here.
I dabble.
Okay. All right. I've dabbled in Aristotle. So it
Plato,
comes to the nature
Socrates.
of how do you know something's good, right?
Yeah,
so
that's a
like,
good
for
question.
example, you've got your water bottle there, right?
Sure do.
How do you know, is that a good water bottle?
The very best.
Okay. So this is the best water bottle.
Okay, I may have oversold
Okay,
it.
all right.
It's a very fine water bottle.
How do you know it's a good water bottle?
I'd say because it does what I need it to do.
Right.
And
it
does
does
well.
what it was made to do.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you know if a person's good? Is it doing what it was made to do? So Christianity can say our ethics aren't based on this willy-nilly kind of we hate people and we just want to make them miserable, because that's what guys like Dawkins and Hitchens and that sort of unbelievers,
Right.
documentary guys.
Using this holiness, the idea of holiness, as
right.
a club.
And we do that. No, it's we believe that there is a goodness that comes from doing what we were made to do, and the fulfillment of life. And even Aristotle taught this. Now, he had a different purpose, but even Aristotle taught that the goodness we experience in life comes from fulfilling the purpose. Well, the Westminster Catechism says that man's chief purpose is to worship and glorify God. God said that too. Let us make him in our own image, that he would reflect us. Does my life reflect God? Does my life reflect God into myself? Do I reflect God to the people around me? Do I reflect God back to him? Now I have meaning. Does my job reflect who God made me to be? Does how I treat my body reflect my purpose in life? Do you see how it all starts out? Does the way I spend my money reflect, am I good? I'm good because I'm doing what I was made to do, which is to reflect God back to himself, to myself and to the people around me.
Beautiful.
And so from that, we have that. So they all dance with each other, they interact with each other. And then finally to ask yourself, do my stated beliefs align with my experiences, right? That's one thing I always think, well, I believe that this is this. And
right.
What I mean by that is you really believe that? So the one that I always talk about is I know intellectually that if I wanted to lose weight, I should move more and eat less. It's basic science, right? But I don't do it. Mm-hmm. So there's something I'm not believing in all of this.
You don't believe it's maybe worth your time if you're not doing it?
I don't know. Maybe I don't believe I'm that bad. I don't know. But
who are you to say I'm not?
We're not talking about my beliefs here, Miles. We're talking about other people's beliefs. Let's make that abundantly clear.
I think the comment section may have.
The comment section, I'm sure, will have plenty of that. Look, let's not get caught up with who believes what and who thinks who. We'll just throw all that out. Let's not get bogged down in the minutia.
Your doctor's like, actually, this is very important.
I really
Brian.
hope my doctor's not listening to this. But he's like, well, Brian.
Funny you brought this up.
Yeah, just drop it in the comments. Is that what you say? What do you say? Do we say drop it in the comments? Do we say drop it like it's hot in the comments?
Do we
slide into the comments?
We don't slide into DMs.
Okay. I don't. I never have, I don't think. I don't think I have.
Stop.
Okay.
Yeah, the comments section. I don't know.
I can
you
feel
post
myself
in the
getting
comments.
embarrassed. Like I think I'm turning red.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
That's a good shade on you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so let me get these out there. So Christianity teaches that beliefs inform every area of our lives. That's why they matter. Every area of your life, the reason it matters is what you believe. Okay. Another one is that belief is determined by choice, but is shaped and influenced by experience. I really want people to get this. You do choose what you believe. Belief is not an emotion. Belief is a choice. So if you believe something, you can do the work to unbelieve it and believe something else.
And would it be fair to say...
That's what I believe.
Would it be fair to say that the choice, the belief is reinforced then by the choice, ergo the action, right? The more you act in accordance with the belief that you want to have, these are the choices we're talking about.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yes. Because what happens is then people say, well, then it's self-fulfilling prophecy. You see the world because you choose to see the world that way. Not if I'm honest. If I'm truly intellectually and self-aware and honest, at some point what I believe will be incongruent. There will be dissonance with the actual experience of the world. And I have one of two choices. I can either push through it and deny reality, or I can reassess my belief system. Okay? And Christianity actually invites you to do that. Examine my heart, O God, Psalm 26.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I love that.
Christianity says, bring it to the table. God, my experience of what you're going versus what I'm supposed to believe aren't lining up. So examine my heart right now. Tell me what I either need to know something, I need to change something, I need to know something more about you, God. And the Bible is full of that. The Bible is full of people saying, you said you would do this, my experience is this, and help me resolve that. And you know what the amazing thing about that is God always resolves that tension. He doesn't reject it, he doesn't berate, he doesn't push away, he resolves that tension. And so that belief then is important because it shapes everything we do. It's important because we can choose it, and it's important because our truest beliefs will always win. When push comes to shove, you will always go with what you really, really believe. Jesus Christ, when he was on earth, he taught that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What's inside will always come out. He taught his followers that how your body is defiled, like how it becomes sinful, is not by what you bring in, but what's inside of you coming out. Because he said, this is what will be revealed. Where your treasure is, Jesus said, there will your heart, your beliefs be also, what you've put it in. And it absolutely matters what you believe, because when life gets hard, and it will, then you'll know. And do my beliefs, are they ready to stand up to that moment? Not when everything's easy. Who cares? That would be who cares when it's easy? That's easy. Right. What about when life is real and it's hard? Do your beliefs stand up then? Yeah,
that idea of the crucible, or when you're melting, you're purifying silver or gold, right? It's those everything rises to the surface when the heat's on.
Yeah.
And life will absolutely, it rains on the wicked and on the righteous, and it good things and bad things. It happens to us all. And so where are you standing? What are you standing on?
Yeah.
When
and what is your belief system?
Yeah.
So again, we're not we will have plenty of time to show why Christianity is a superior worldview in a number of ways, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, if you're listening and you would say, well, I'm not a Christian, or I came across this, I don't know what to do with this, I would just say, don't worry about Christianity right now. Just figure out what it is you actually believe. What do you believe about where you came from, why you're here, why the world is the way it is? And do your answers intellectually satisfy you? Do the ideas satisfy you? Does it result in moral behavior and moral expectations of yourself and others that satisfy you? And does it reflect in the experiences of your life? Do you feel like it's working for you? Not is life easy or hard? That's the wrong indicator. Not that people are all of a sudden nice to me, or I'm wealthier, or my skin cleared up, or my teeth straightened, or whatever. It's not toothpaste. It's a belief system. And if it does those things, now you can really hammer and test its validity. And I want to just stop by, we go through this thread of scripture, but I want to show then how it ties to what Jesus does for us, what we as Christians believe that Jesus did. Jesus believed so much in what he believed that he took it all the way, we believe, to the cross for us.
Yeah, he was not afraid to.
And he wasn't afraid. He says in John 17, he's praying to God at the Last Supper, and he says, I do not ask for these only, but also for those who will believe in me through their word. So at that point, we actually believe Jesus is praying for every person who would ever believe in him. So that's you and I now. Jesus is praying for us right there. He jumps down, he says this, Father, I desire that they also, whom you have given me, may be with me where I am, to see my glory that you have given me, because you loved me before the foundation of the world. So Jesus believed so much that God had loved him before the foundation of the world, that the glory he was going to show them, he's talking about the cross. So your beliefs matter. And it's only through his beliefs. It's only through belief that can get you through those times. And his belief loves so much that it drives us right. It drives Jesus Christ, the Son of God, all the way to the cross because of what he believed about himself, what he believed about God, and what he believed about you and me. He believed that you and me were worth it. What if he didn't believe that? Right? What if he didn't believe that? Then even the moral example of Jesus Christ would never exist. So let's just take away the divinity side, which I believe you can't, but let's just try it. Even his moral impact, but yet that belief of how it shaped and moved and tied and moved it forward just becomes so critical. So belief matters because it sets the trajectory of every area of our life. So take that inventory. Where you're pointed. What's the track? If you keep going down this route, where will you be? And I think that's a way to address it.
Yeah, examine my heart.
Examine my heart.
I love that.
All right.
Well, that's this episode of Theology Threads, the very first one.
Yeah.
Exciting, right?
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah,
I think we're going on a journey together.
We should do more.
We should do this more often. And next week we're talking about doubt, right? So we'll be doing that next.
Are you sure? That's a little joke I like to do.
Dad jokes are free on this podcast.
Yeah. No, we should move those over to the
Patreon?
Platinum channel. Yeah.
We don't have a Patreon.
We don't have
Do we? No.
We're just patronizing.
Okay.
Hey,
all right. There's another one. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Please take a second to like and subscribe for notifications. Ding. Follow us on social media and leave a 5-star review on your podcast app so others can find us. That's it. @TheoThreads. Thank you guys.
Thank you.